have started. What's up, everybody, and welcome to Peeling the Banana, episode 13, podcast 13. And today we are going to talk about emotional intelligence. And with me today is a good friend, a emotional intelligence coach, and currently a photo and video producer. My good friend, a mentor as well, Reni. Reni Coulson, is that how you say it?
Yes.
All right. How you doing, Reni?
Wow. What an intro. Thank you. I'm so glad to be here and I'm so proud of you because I remember when we first initially started talking about this and you told me you wanted to do this podcast and now you're doing it. We're on episode 13. So awesome.
Well, I remember this was like my fourth goal because um, as part of when I decided to take emotional intelligence classes, I guess, which is where I met you from Choice Center Leadership University out in Las Vegas back in October.
Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah, so this goal just came to fruition because I just wanted to do it. I've always wanted to do one, and I switched this one with another goal because it wasn't as creative as I liked. And how we should always do things, just jump right in and do it. I didn't have any experience or any knowledge, so here we are, 13 episodes in, and I think I'm killing it. So I'm enjoying it too. I get to connect with people and friends, and just kind of hear things about life and what they're going through, and maybe learn a thing or two about emotional intelligence, sports, whatever else we want to talk about.
Yeah, you have a really good cross between all the things. And you said it exactly right. All it just takes is you to just jump right in and do it. And you don't let all those limiting self beliefs hold you back. And I think that's where I saw you really break through. And everyone who goes through choice and is that you don't let those limiting self beliefs hold you back. You just do things that you've always wanted to do no matter what. And you figure it out. And that's what you're doing. It's awesome.
Well, I'm doing my best. I will say that. Still struggle from time to time, but life ain't easy, right?
Of course. I mean, no one's perfect. That's for sure.
Well, sometimes I like to think I am.
Well, please, yes.
All right, so what we're going to talk about is EQ, obviously, which is emotional intelligence. And I think the first subject to talk about, which is big in this world now, I think society's a little messed up, and I think we need to flip the script, is this whole victim mentality and entitlement and this woe me and wanting pity. Um, what is your thoughts on this whole victim mentality and victim responsibility and how it's kind of hurting people's lives and not taking them to places where they can accomplish their dreams?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think first off, that victim word comes off so strong. And I think if you
I
were to
hate it.
tell someone, yeah, like I think if you were to tell someone, it has just such a negative connotation, obviously. But if you were to tell someone you're being a victim right now, I think people are so quick to jump to like actual victims of sexual, verbal, domestic abuse. And they're like, what? No, I'm not. Like, I'm not being a victim. But that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about being a victim to your environment and your surroundings. And it can be as small as being a victim to the traffic that you're so frustrated that you're in. Or a really good example that I see all the time. You know, I live in Nashville and constantly what I hear from single women is it sucks to date here in Nashville. Like there's no guys, like all there's so many more women than men. So things like that, that you are just being a victim to your environment. And I think people who, and as you know this, but you get a lot of payoffs from being a victim. And I think that's where that emotional intelligence starts to play a part when you can detach from that victim mentality and know that you are getting payoffs from that. And one of which being sympathy, of course. When you're a victim, you have people who feel bad for you and they want to be there for you. And that feels really good, right? Um, but in return, what you pay for being a victim is a lot of anxiety and sadness and concern,
Loneliness.
loneliness. Oh my gosh, all the things. So that's really where we depict standing responsibly versus being a victim, because when we stand responsibly, we get to feel a whole lot better.
Right. So to explain this whole victim thing, would you say the biggest thing about being a victim is basically something happens to you and you're pointing the fingers and blaming something or someone else?
Absolutely. I mean, and you can definitely touch on this from your own personal experience that I know you have shared before. But I think too, when you're pointing the fingers at someone else, you're giving this energy out into the world that the world owes me something. When something bad happens to me and I capitalize on that, it's like, okay, all this shit has gone wrong in my life. This is what's happening to me. So the world must owe me next. And newsflash, the world doesn't owe you shit.
Hmm.
And, we
Facts.
are the masters of our own life. And once I got that wake up call, my whole life has like changed forever. And of course, like no one's perfect. Like we were just saying in the beginning, we all have our moments. We all get upset about things, and that doesn't mean we're here to invalidate our feelings. It's really crucial to feel your feelings and feel if something's upsetting you, because it's totally valid, but it's just about detaching the feelings and knowing that this is not me and I can choose the latter.
Right. So in today's society, emotions are a big thing. And people's feelings are getting hurt a little too much over some of the dumbest things or even name calling. Like, there's a lot of words now that we can't use, um, that in my own experience that I've used,
Mhm.
which, got me released from the party animals and not on the banana tour anymore, which I've admitted fault. I've taken responsibility. Yes, it sucks. It still sucks, but over time, I've gotten to understand that there's always two roles in it, and I need to be the bigger person and take the responsibility and learn from mistakes. Um, and so, like, just being able for that to happen to me, um, and then go through choice, which is where I opened up about it, it's made me realize and look back at life of I've kind of been seen myself as a victim the whole time, and I think that's caused a path for me to go down, which looking back maybe I didn't want to, but I mean everything happens for a reason, everything happens on purpose, which I believe. And so now going through choice and learning about EQ, it's given me the tools to think instead of react to a situation, right away. And so what do you think is the best way to, I don't know how to say it, support that victim mentality and kind of reverse it?
Yeah, so I think it's about truly, and this is kind of nuanced, and this is one of the things where I'm like, it really makes sense in my head, but I don't know if I articulate it so well. But it's really about choosing yourself and knowing that you get to feel good in this life. Super simple. It's not rocket science. You get to feel good. And we need to, as a society, start to look at the thoughts that we're choosing and how is it making us feel. Our society succumbs us to always choose the negative. That's our automatic. It's always choosing victim, always choosing negative. And in return, clearly, if we examine how that's making us feel, it's making us feel really awful, like low power, low energy, worthless, all of these negative emotions that tie into victim mentality, if we can put that as a whole. But I think making the connection that, oh, I get to actually choose something that will make me feel better right now. So I'm going to choose this thought of, you know what, like in your example, this happened for a reason. It wasn't meant to be. I get to stand responsibly right now because I did use a word that, and if you want to expand on this
Or words.
word, yes, maybe you should expand on this for all the listeners in the pod right now of like what exactly happened. But, when you stand in your power and take ownership, yeah, you're not playing victim, so you're not reaping those benefits, but I guarantee you will genuinely feel better. And I think it takes a really deep love for yourself, which is something when I went through the program is what I gained, because when you really love yourself, you're going to choose you and you're going to choose thoughts that make you feel great because you deserve it in this life. You get one. So, might as well choose the thoughts that feel good to you. So,
Right. I mean, I think the whole point of life is living your best life. And I think only 1% of people actually do, and the rest of the world is stuck in this entitlement, victim mentality, sensitive to things that really don't mean anything. Because, like, if someone calls you a name, like, so what? Like, just because they think you are something doesn't mean you are. Like, where's your own mentality of, like, screw that person? There's no need to react to it. Take the information that they gave you, turn it around and use it as fuel to accomplish goals, accomplish dreams, and go out in life and still be as positive as you can. Because from my favorite podcast, Dr. Robert Gilbert, I wrote this down from one of his episodes. Um, Let me get to it. But I literally listen to his episodes every day. I sent you a couple today.
yes, and I
This
love
is this is one of his first ones though.
yeah,
Um, but it says he says tough times never last, but tough people do. To get through a tough time, you probably know what you have to do. The question is, will you do it?
totally. And that goes back to your limiting self-beliefs. The only person who holds you back is you. Truly. I mean, that is the truth at the end of the day. And to your point of if someone's calling you a name or, a few weeks ago I cut someone off. Well, I really didn't cut someone off. I had to get
You
over get on the highway and this guy was like honking at me so much and I was like, "Oh my god, I'm sorry." And then we were waiting at the next stoplight and he literally chucked his drink at my car. And it was
Did you have the windows up?
yeah, it was like he was behind me since I scooted in front of him and he chucked his drink at the car at my and it honestly scared me because it was this loud sound. I was like, "Oh my god." And I knew this guy was mad that I like cut in front of him.
Some really
And
bad,
again,
really.
it's yeah, it's, the automatic, I was like, "Oh my god, there's people like this in the world who's gonna, like, throw their drink at my car when they're upset." It's really frightening that we do have people like that who live in our society. However, I will say the sooner you can shift out of that and not let that bother you, not give your power away to someone like that, the
Hmm.
sooner you start to feel better and carry on with your day. And again, easier said than done, but it just ties back to the connection of I get to choose myself what's going to feel better right now. Oh, it's for me to not give a shit about this guy throwing his drink at my car who I don't even know and just making that better choice to, carry on.
Well, because like I feel like there's so many ways to handle that. Is like one, you could lash out and cause a big fight in the middle of the road and get out of your car. And I mean, you could go as far as he pulls a gun or you pull a gun if you had
Right?
one,
Scary.
so like, that's one scenario. The other scenario is, like you said, you take a couple deep breaths, you don't react, you kind of breathe and you think through it and hope to God he doesn't get out of his car. and the light turns green and you keep going. And then three, you're also thinking like, well, you know what? Maybe he's had a rough day, so there's no need in judging. Yes, I may have cut him off, but like, I'm sorry. Like, you could pray or send some energy to him and be like, hey, I don't know what's going on with that guy, but I hope the best for you.
I love that approach. And it's totally one that I've taken before because we know the saying, hurt people hurt people. And so just feeling truly bad for someone like that and wishing them well and wishing that they're okay because clearly something's going on in their life where they're okay. And I mean, I say this so seriously. And I was actually looking at, you had a little dictionary definition of what EQ was. And I was reading it. I was like, oh, this is really nice. But in part of the definition was it was like leading your relationships with empathy. And
Hmm.
that is so true. And that is such a foundational element to having a high EQ. And so with that situation, absolutely it's okay, let me empathize with him. Clearly he's going through it right now if he's
He's
gonna
distressed.
right. So
He hates his life,
yeah,
or whatever the fact.
yeah. And we learned a great tool by the famous Chris Lee motivator on Instagram, I think.
Mm,
But when
great
things
guy.
like that happen, you say yes. You shout it out. If you're in traffic, it's the worst traffic, guy throws a drink or whatever little thing happens that your automatic wants to tell you no, why is this happening? Instead, you say yes.
Yes.
And I swear to God, it helps. I mean, you tell me, I'm sure you've done it a million times, but that kind of stuff is what helps start to retrain your automatic brain pathways because our automatic always says no. And it's still going to say no. That's our automatic. But when we verbally speak it out into existence, the yes, it starts to churn that a little bit and it helps. It really does.
Because it's well, the way I saw it when he taught us that, I've heard it before, but it's from Jocko, the military guy who also, and he says there's one podcast where he said good. So I was able to like relate it. Like when something bad happens, good. Or in Chris Lee's uh, instance, yes. Whereas like good, it happened. Yes, it happened. Now, how do I fix it? How do I move on? How do I learn from it? Um, and like it's definitely helped because what you want to do, right, is stay away from the oh fuck, and then you just keep going down the negative
Such a
snowball effect down the hill.
yep.
Whereas what we want to do is reverse our thought and try to put it right into a positive.
Yes. And it literally a lot of this what it boils down to and like what choice is it's not philosophical, right? It's not this like spiritual woo woo, it's all science and it's like the science of your energy and retraining what you say in connection to how that makes you feel.
Well, I mean, right. I mean, the whole world, us, everything in life is energy. It's positive and negative.
Mhm.
And we want to be energy givers, not energy takers. And we want to put out good energy instead of give out good energy as well, because then we're giving our power away, right? So what is something we can do or write or think to kind of reverse like just a bad thought of a situation that happens? Like
So
what's something you've been taught or learned either through coach or through life
yeah,
or relationships? Like what is going on? What can we do?
I think one of the biggest things someone can do when they're in a period of stress or anxiety or just a really bad moment is gratitude. And this is not a new concept, right? We always preach being grateful for what you have and blah, blah, blah. But I think the differentiator, and I'll give an example because a couple years ago, I was like, oh, I'm going to practice my gratitude and yay, gratitude. I'm grateful for X, Y, and Z. So I ordered, a little gratitude journal on Amazon. And it had, it gives you the prompts like, and it had three things in the morning to write what you're grateful for, and then that night, 3 things you're grateful for at night, at the end of the day. However, these 3 things, it gave you one singular line to write what you were grateful for. And in truth, that does not get the job done. That is not what makes you truly deep within your soul feel gratitude to where it's going to help. And, because gratitude and anxiety, they cannot live together. So when you disrupt your anxiety with gratitude, it is like the biggest power shift. It's crazy, but that really takes you truly at least a page of your gratitude, writing that out. Um, because obviously one singular line, and that's what society conditions us, it's not setting a good precedent or example for really how we show gratitude.
Mhm.
And but gratitude is the number one thing I would suggest that someone can implement right now, today, if they are in a rut, in a hard time, to just be grateful for the food you eat today, the clothes that you have on your back, the sunshine in the morning, all of those things. But to truly feel that deep within your soul is a game changer for sure.
So I heard this, I don't know how many years ago, but it's always stuck with me. But I visualize it as, in order to help me with this whole gratitude thing, I always think to myself at the end of every day, because of this. So the thing was, if the world was to end tomorrow, and you woke up, the only thing that you have when you wake up is what you were thankful for the day before. And
Hmm.
so that's how I go to bed at night, where I won't write it down, but I'll just say it, and I'll always say friends, family, and home. So
Hmm.
if so, I always like to think if the world does end tomorrow, at least I have my friends, my family, and a home.
Hmm. I
You
love
know, and so that's what's always stuck with me. And then sometimes it changes. Sometimes I'll go health, but and add some other stuff in. But I always, to me, family is probably the most important thing that I always put in that nightly little gratitude of prayer, I guess, is what I do. And then I also every morning I write down 5 things that I'm grateful for.
Yeah. And I invite you to write more about those than you ever had before, because I guarantee so much more is going to come up and you're going to feel so much more connected and incredible when you deep dive into that 1 through 5 that you're grateful for. And so much more is going to come up for you. And I love what you said about family too, because I always like to say, the the value of your life is equally related to the value of your relationships, because relationships are everything. And that's a huge part of EQ as well, is
Mhm.
building strong relationships, because the stronger the relationships, the stronger your life. Truly, I believe that.
Well, yeah, because I mean, without relationships, without people, I mean, no one becomes successful or joyful or fulfilled because in everything we do, business, relationships, school, we need somebody or something, you know. So we need a partner because we can go fast by ourselves, but we can go further with somebody else.
Yeah.
And um, I mean, imagine waking up and everyone's gone. Like, what are you gonna do?
Right.
There's no relationship to be had. There's nothing. Like, you're gonna be the most depressed, lonely person ever. And so without people, and if you believe in God as well, or whatever you believe in, but without people and without that belief system, you really have nothing. And it's sad to think about. But that's why, going back, like if the world does end tomorrow, I at least put my three main things. So if I do wake up, I got something still.
I like that. I
Yeah.
like that a lot. I'm going to start implementing that into my nighttime routine.
Yeah. Well, I think it's the best. Like, do you have any like gratitude journals or morning routines that you stick to kind of help you start your day right?
It definitely changes. I'm not like an exact morning routine type of girl. But I will say sometimes in the evening, when the thoughts are spinning, I truly believe in journaling. And here's why. You know, when I look at the Jay Shettys and the Mel Robbins and the Lewis Howes of the world and, their whole entire brand, followed by millions of people, is personal development and self
Don't forget
help.
Tony Robbins.
Tony Robbins, of course. But their whole entire brand is surrounded by self-help. And I can guarantee you they're not perfect, just like us. They don't have it all figured out. They don't have it all together. But more so, what they do and the work that they're doing to help people is of course helping people, but it's not altruistic, right? When they speak on all the EQ stuff, all the self-help stuff, that is a huge reminder to themselves. I fully believe even the conversation that we're having, it is such a mood booster and a 1% better in my own transformation when I get to speak on these topics, because it's a huge reminder to me. It puts my ass on the line to carry on these things that I know to be true. And so journaling is a piece of that. Journaling because, and people say my heart is saying one thing and my head is saying another thing. That that's something I hear all the time. And that's where journaling can step in, because it silences that ego in you that is maybe struggling with something that isn't true. And you can silence that and you can journal about it and you can talk yourself through it, because at the end of the day, we're our best advocate, we're our own therapist. And that's really what, Mel Robbins, Jay Shetty, all of those are doing. They're being their own therapist by talking to
Mhm.
other people in their work. So journaling is amazing for that, truly.
I think the journaling just creates consistency and discipline. So if something happens, you have that journal to go back to and reflect on or write out your thoughts and emotions and anger. And that way you put it all on paper. And once you finish writing it, it's like you could say, I think, it's like a load off your shoulders. There's a big weight off of it. Like, all right, you got it expressed. You may not have had someone to talk to, but you're able to journal it out. And then you can go about your day or your night because, everything's written down. And let's say something triggers you again, you can look back and see what you did or what you said or what you thought or what you wrote in order to get back to a balanced state, to a more positive state, right? And so how do we like does the journaling help going from a survival mode of living and tapping more into your creation mode of living and figuring out things throughout life through more of a creative side. Like we all have a mental block sometimes, and we all tell ourselves, "Oh, I can't think of anything," or like we have a project to do or a business plan to do or something to do in life, and we just have that mental block. Do you think journaling and writing things down will help us become more creative than just in survival mode of, okay, how do I survive this situation instead of, I think, creative mode? Would you agree that we find multiple ways of learning and going through something?
Yeah, it's definitely multifunctional. Not only can it help your creative block, I mean, you think of these big companies, they have brainstorming sessions with a bunch of whiteboards. Because if you just are putting things out on paper, I mean, there's all this science about how much better it is for your intake of learning to write something down rather than type it. And the same goes with journaling. So, of course, it can help creatively. But to me personally, what I've experienced is journaling helps remove my ego, because what I know to be true, my whole and complete self, is able to come through on those pages, because I might be writing something like, this was a really hard moment for me with my friend. We had this conflict and I'm feeling X, Y, and Z. But then within that same sentence, I know that I can write, but I know that this is all meant to happen and I can choose to be responsible. It almost forces you into that standing responsibly mode, and
Hmm.
it just helps silence the ego, like, truly. And even and adding in the gratitude as well within that journaling, and really just getting introspective, because when we have a better connection with who we are better equipped to deal with the outside world and deal with other people. But of course that needs to start internally.
Okay. So journaling, I think gratitude in that journal, and then just putting ideas and expression and emotions out within that journal is what I think is a good step, is a good first step into breaking out of that victim mentality, or even if you're not in one, but you're just in a bad mental state, would you say? Right?
Yes, totally. And it's breaking through those limiting self-beliefs, It's when we think
No.
of you starting this podcast, and I mean even Steve Jobs starting Apple, all these people who have started these amazing things, and you're thinking, how did these people do this? Like, where did they even start? And the answer is, you just start, right? You just
Mm-hmm.
your pen to your paper in this scenario, maybe that's what it is,
Yeah.
and you just start. That's it. It's so simple. And we as humans, truly, I believe, don't love ourselves enough to just start and make the move, because we allow things to get in the way, and it all comes from us, sadly. And look, it's not easy. I'm not like the walking poster child for this stuff, but like I was saying,
You're getting there.
I'm getting there. I'm striving there. But again, this conversation is helping me. It's fueling me in my own passions and my own inspirations to um go out there and not let my limiting self-beliefs get in the way. But again, it just takes practice. I don't like to say the word work. It just, we always hear that. Just takes work. You got to work hard,
Yeah.
work. It's not work if you love it and it's getting you to the next place that you want to be. It's just practice. So we're all just practicing. It's that 1% better every day mentality.
Right. Because it's practice, but it's also action. You want to take action into doing something. Like for me, doing this podcast, I literally just took action. I reached out to No Filter Network, my good friend Eric Burns, who founded this whole platform, and I was like, hey, I want to start a podcast. And he got me in touch with one of his people, and we set up the account, and that was it. First podcast was about me because it's my podcast, and so why not talk about the about me of the host? Another one was COVID hit. I moved home. I just graduated and got my bachelor's degree from Bama. And I was like, well, what am I going to do now until baseball season hopefully starts? Um, Took a couple blenders, a couple coolers, and went and did a lemonade stand, but a smoothie stand right outside my house. And that's how Mana Living got started, and my whole smoothie business. I literally just started doing it. Like I didn't know how to start a business or go file for an LLC or none of that. But I mean, neither does a kid who's running a 25-cent lemonade stand, but that's kind of the idea of what I did.
Yeah.
and then everything fell into place from there because I was committed to it, and then the more I did it, the more I learned, the more I researched, and the more people got invested in it. And then baseball came, continued to do it. Then my roommate got involved in it, and then he became my business partner. So like everything kind of flowed from just taking action and taking a risk. Because there's nothing wrong with taking a risk and failing, because the only way you're going to learn is through failure, and the only way you're going to succeed is through failure, and by not making excuses of, oh, I don't have the time, or I don't know how to do it. It's no, everyone has the power within them to do anything that they want. It's just taking the time and finding the strategy to do it.
Absolutely. I love that what you said. I mean, my experience of you is just totally fearless, and that's your experiences and how you've, you know, made money for yourself and done things that you love. It's just no fear. You don't care about what people are going to say about you, and you're just doing things because you want to start and you want to persevere
Hmm.
and be determined. And yeah, that was in one of those podcasts that you shared of, it's not about if it's this is hard or this. I think that's what he was saying is, people are saying, well, this is so hard and this is more hard than this, and I'm doing something that is more difficult than what you're doing. But when it comes down to it, it is just time consuming. So it's what you're
Hmm.
put the time into, and because it all comes down to your priorities. And I think our society prioritizes a lot of things that might not be the best for them, but it's priorities and what you want to put the time into.
Yeah, so here I can help you out just a little bit since I take amazing notes on that podcast that I sent you and you referenced, but it said people that put in the most time come out the best. Difficulty, nope, that was it. And more time equals more skill and mastery. You are not lacking ability, you are lacking strategy and training. So, like, I mean, I could go as far as baseball. Like, the only reason why I'm good at baseball is because I've been doing it 20 something years. Anyone could be good at baseball if they've just been doing it as long as I have.
Right.
I could be good at any other sport if I started at 4 or 5 and just continue to do it. So, I mean, that's all it really is. It's not, oh, I can't do it. It's just, no, you just haven't done it a while. And if you do want to do it, you start now and you make the time and find the strategy to do it for days and days and days and be consistent. And eventually it turns into years. But, our best years are our young years when we're agile and athletic. And that's the best time if you want to do a sport or something. But if you want to be an accountant, start now and learn it for the next 20 years. You might be the best accountant by the time you're 50.
Yeah.
You
It's
know, so it's,
so true. It's so amazing what we can consume truly through our experiences. I mean, even with choice, before I got into this work, and like you said, it just takes the training and going through all the programs at choice, and then being able to go back and coach people like yourself and everyone in your class. It was so amazing, can't even begin to describe how transformative it was for me in my own journey. But again, I can't even believe that a year ago I wasn't even doing this kind of work at all. And it just goes to show, like what you were saying, when you really care about something and love it and prioritize it and you get that training, you're limitless. It's the possibilities are endless. And that's how I feel with this work, and I absolutely love it.
right. So it's about passion, and and what we're interested in. So how do we help ourselves, and how do we also help people that are full of excuses? Because
Mm,
I hate people that are full. I hate them, and I do it too, But I really, if I'm going down that excuse path, I try to stop myself and be like, no, you just need to make the time, or you need to just do it and shut up and don't complain. But my biggest complaint with people when you ask them to do something or they're just ranting to you, is I don't have the time or I don't know how to do it. How do we help those people, or like how do we just in general find ways to like figure that whole thing out, because everyone has the time. It's just a matter of priorities.
Totally. And we can't change people. We can't force people to do something that we don't want to do. And I totally hear what you're saying. It can be so frustrating when you really care about someone and you want the best for them and all you hear is excuses, and it can be sometimes hard to leave an imprint on them. But I will say this, and this has changed my life in a lot of ways when it comes to relationships, is centered around honesty. But more so, if you have a very close relationship with someone and they're venting to you about whatever situation it may be, ask them, do I have your permission to give you honest feedback right now?
Uh,
And I'm telling you though, it is such a game changer. It sounds a little cringy and like really like you're going to ask for permission the way you say it, but tell them like, do you want my, like literally ask like, do you want my honest feedback? Because I think a big problem with relationships is people give unsolicited advice all the time. And then it causes like a rift between people and conflict and, people getting upset and hurt
People
feelings.
get sensitive.
People get sensitive. But when you set the playing field of, do you want my honest opinion? And really be like serious about it. And then when they say yes, fully be honest with them and be like, what I'm hearing from you is a lot of excuses. And of course, you do it in such a kind way where you're very
Try.
empathetic. Yeah. But if they then get upset with you and they are upset about what you said, you can kind of back off and say, hey, like, I asked for your permission. I'm just giving you what you granted me to do. And that kind of like, it's kind of like a CYA, cover your ass, as I like to say. But because you're setting a very balanced playing field when you have these discussions with someone. And look, though, at the end of the day, we can be an influence and we can be a stand for people, but we can't make people do something that they're just not going to do. But I do feel like asking for permission and really having an open, honest conversation with your loved ones goes a super long way. And not if you're going to be rude and like mean to that person with your honesty, but there's a way to be empathetic and honest at the same time.
Well, I don't think it's being mean. I think the best way to say it is, in order to not look mean or sound mean, is the tone. Because either way, I think that person is going to take it as as in not a nice way. Because no matter what you say, you're giving them criticism,
Well, depending
basically,
on
right?
dealing with. Yeah, you kind of have to like read the room, right? Like,
Right, right. But I mean, if you're given permission, you're given an opinion of what you think is best for them in order to help them, but it's also criticism. I mean,
yeah, sure.
ideally, right? And if they get mad or hurt, like that's not your fault unless you're yelling at them and you're doing it in a bad tone.
Of course.
But I mean, what you say is just honesty. And if what do you do when someone can't take that honesty and just accept it and say thank you and be like, okay, like I will try, or something. Whereas in most conflicts like that, we'll say something because we really want to help, but they take it as like, oh, you're just telling me like what to do.
Right. And that comes from a lot of if it's something where it's a difficult situation like that, what I'm hearing from you is someone who might be very difficult to like take things the wrong way. That's when we need to be crystal clear in our delivery. And as long as we feel so secure and confident in the way that we approach this person, then in return, if they're getting upset with us, we can stand tall and stand responsibly in our own decision making when it came to speaking to this person and coming to them with concerns. Because if you're coming from such a well intended place, but also a place where it was not passive aggressive, probably not over
Mm,
text, that's the worst way to communicate with someone. It was very loving, and really it's tapping into your ways of being. If you're in
right.
and you're connected to your way of being of loving, caring, kind, empathetic, trusting,
Understanding.
and you really center yourself with all of those ways of being, then you can leave that conversation no matter what happened in such a confident, secure way with yourself. Because there's nothing worse than like saying, because I found that to be true several years ago of conflict I had with my friends, but saying something because I felt like that was valid, but then I would feel bad about myself because I knew deep down the delivery wasn't as great as it could have been. And then it makes you feel bad about yourself because you're like, oh, I
Hmm.
kind of came off rude or insensitive or what have you.
But then that's where you just go and say, I'm sorry, and hopefully you mend things,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
they, and they can forgive, and you forgive, and you move on.
Yeah, but I'm telling you, and you know this, but the asking for permission, and it doesn't have to be a weird way, it's a game changer. It's a game changer because, again, covers your ass and it opens up the playing field.
So, right. So, like, for example, I had this guy stay at my house, and it was a rough time. And so when he left, I asked him, for a month rent, and he stayed and used the house as storage for at least three months. But every time I ask, politely, hey man, like, any update, and can you send me anything? It's same excuse. Oh, I gotta pay the bills and my car, or my check didn't come in. Um, and it's literally been the same excuse. And what's even worse is he'll be like, okay, I'll give you $50 today, or I'll give you 100 today, but then he doesn't do it. Right? So like it really, really frustrates me, and I've been really patient. Um, where am I going with this?
You're asking what to do in that
Oh,
situation or how to make it.
no, 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 no. So I replied, and I basically, in a nice way, I said, hey man, like I totally understand, but I'm in the same boat as you. I gotta pay bills. I got a mortgage to pay. Like I don't have a job right now. Not to make excuses, but I was just trying to like relate and be like, bro, you're not in the, you're not the only one.
Mhm.
And from what he's saying, would you say that's from a victim mentality, saying like I've got all this stuff to do, and woe is me, and I'm sorry, and I'm trying my best, because I'm not trying to make excuses. I'm just telling him the facts on my side, like how,
Yeah. Well,
like
look, there's
it's like it's hard to resolve the situation when all I'm getting is excuses, and I've given a lot of patience, a lot of time for him to, just send the money like we agreed, and finish it, like close that door. But
Mhm.
um
I mean,
it's
that's
just been tough on my side because I got a house to pay. He doesn't, but I'm not going to give him that excuse.
right. Yeah, and that's finances and money is so difficult. That's probably one of the most conflicting topics that come between friends, roommates, family. I mean, financial reasons
Hmm.
is the number one reason of divorce. I'm pretty sure why people get divorced because of financial reasons. But what I was hearing a lot in that is an opportunity for you or anyone in a similar situation is to set boundaries. That's where you set boundaries because it sounds like he's crossed a boundary that maybe you could have done better with. I'm not sure the whole context, and set that boundary. And look, like, same thing goes for what I was saying before of unfortunately you can't make him pay you, and that's what's really difficult about it. But clearly there's been some back and forth. He feels like he can just pay you 50 bucks here and there, and there's a certain boundary that needs to be respected. And I think that's a huge thing in relationships is if someone's crossing a line with you, you set a boundary with them.
Hmm.
And if they decide to cross that boundary, then I think, you
What do
know,
you do? Do you cut him off?
I mean,
I
again, it's
mean, as a
financial situations. But yeah, I think if it's a situation where you're not financially tied and someone doesn't owe you money and someone's disrespecting you and it's in crossing a boundary that you set, totally fair then because that boundary is almost like a contract that you make with yourself of
yeah,
because I respect myself so much and this is what I need. And if you're going to cross that, I love myself so much that I'm going to release that from my field of vision because it doesn't serve me in the same purpose.
right,
But again,
true.
financially, that's a tough situation if he owes
I
you
mean,
money.
there's a lot more that goes
Yeah.
into the story, and he's broken my trust from the beginning. Um,
Mm,
and just through talking with mom, it's just about being kind and being understanding and being supportive. And,
right.
maybe he's really, really struggling, which in the back of my mind and my committee that talks to me is like, no, he's full of shit. You
Of course.
see posts of him partying every once in a while, like, like what is really going on? And when he says from way back, "Oh, don't worry, man. Once I get paid, you're gonna be paid, and then we'll end it." And that comes and goes. It's like, bro, just be honest and be like, "Hey, when I get it, when I can get it, I will give it to you. Don't just keep
Yeah.
next day, and so." That shit is really frustrating, but that's one minor thing in my life, and other than that, everything's covered. But I was just trying to throw out an example of someone I think going through a little bit of a victim mentality, not taking responsibility and giving excuses, while at the same time on my side, I'm just trying to be understanding and relatable and patient,
You're doing the right
and
thing. You're
out of sincerity.
Yeah, you're absolutely doing the right thing. And why? It's because I know you have a lot of love and respect for yourself that you're going to choose again feelings that make you feel better. Because imagine if you were getting so pissed off, you were yelling, screaming at him, you were calling him names because this is upsetting me so much, it's so frustrating. You would feel so much worse, like you would
Uh,
feel, gosh,
Debatable.
frustrated. I mean, I know that you would. You know that you would too. I mean, it could feel look, but this is the differentiator is it would feel so rewarding in that split second, to like go off on him cuz you're like like standing in your power, but it's not really standing in your power because it's going to give some aftermath that's going to cause a lot more riff and anxiety and
Well,
all.
it's going back to my bad habits of why I got fired and why some things in my past life didn't go the way it was. It's because I would lash out, instead of deep breath, think about it, think about what to say or what to do,
Right.
and then do and act.
Yeah. You've seen the
So I mean, yeah, and there's no point in it. Um, yeah, when I'm driving, sometimes I'll be like, "You fucker" or something,
total
but but I mean, that's just within
I
me, and then I
yeah,
go back to my merry way on my road and in my own mind.
totally.
Um, but I think like you told me it's not about being right and perfect, it's about living in possibility, and that there's better possibilities to come out of stuff. You don't always have to be right or be perfect.
Mm-hmm. Right. Because I mean, this guy, for example, not to bring it all the way back to him, but who knows? He could be like in your path in the future. He could be connected. The world is very small. It truly is. And you don't want to burn those bridges with anyone. And and I know you know that firsthand, and you've repaired a lot
Hmm.
of relationships in your life, and only good comes from that. And but you don't need to do so much damage control if you just behave the way you knew was possible from the beginning, like you've done with the bananas and all the things.
Well, it's, yeah. I mean, we're just finding ways to always look at the brighter side of things, right? It's transcending through emotions. Um, it's dealing with insecurities, through emotions. I mean, everything comes back to emotions because emotion is energy and
Mhm.
energy is life.
Yes,
And
100%.
so, I mean, like, what was your biggest takeaway from when you went to choice? Like, what was your biggest EQ aha moment from dealing with your past before going to choice and being like, oh crap, this is, like, this is what I really needed?
It's a great question. I mean, I was going through a lot of stuff at once that was extremely painful, and going through this work completely changed my life. And I've been asked this question before. And I think to sum it up, my biggest takeaway is my circumstances do not dictate my way of being. That is really what sums it all up. The things that happen to me are not going to deter me from my higher self, my inner child. And it's not always easy. Again, I'm happy to reiterate how I'm not always perfect at it, and I have my moments, but what I have learned is that I can tap into different ways of being whenever I need to, no matter what's happening in my life. So, yeah,
So, like, what was I gonna say? I got lost in my thoughts.
there's so many thoughts right now. So many good thoughts happening.
Okay, okay. So dealing with that and you going to choice and learning and then becoming a coach, students usually come in, even I came in, and the first thing is, oh, even like telling people, I have to go and do this. How do we change the have tos into get tos and changing that whole like mental state? Because
Mm.
we do get to do stuff, right? Instead of like, we have a choice in everything that we do in life. So like, we don't have to do anything,
Yeah.
but we get to do everything.
Right. And that goes as granular as when you say you have to pay the bills, you get to pay the bills. And why do you get to pay the bills? Because if you don't pay your bill, if you go all the way down that line of what could potentially happen if you don't pay your bills, hell, like you might end up in jail if you're not paying your bills. And so when you switch that mindset, again, like you said, when you have to do something till you get to do something, that taps into the gratitude as well. It's all connected. That is the biggest thing. And, obviously, I'm not going around to people and chatting with my friends and being like, oh, I get to pay my bill today. And then I get to,
well,
gosh,
well,
yeah,
that's stuff you can keep to yourself.
yeah, but of course, I'm in America, so I'm like, "Oh, I have to do
Right.
this, I have to do this," but in the back of my mind, ever since going through this program and learning that and getting that mindset shift, in the back of my mind, when I say I have to, I immediately now am I like, and I'm like, I get to, check
Mhm.
yourself. Newsflash, I get to do this. I know that. And that just, again, it helps retrain that brain pathway that you always are saying, I have to do this, I have to do this. And it's so funny because I notice people, when they're like, "Oh, I have to do this, and I'm just like thinking in my head, you don't even know how
Well,
grateful it is.
well, maybe you need to say something then and just say get to, and then they're gonna be like, what? No, you get to go and do that.
Yeah,
And
that
then
was
if they're like,
great.
no, I have to, well, then you should be like, well, then you shouldn't be doing that then, because
Yeah,
you obviously don't like it.
yeah, that was my favorite point, and because you don't realize how much you say you have to do that,
Yeah,
and I loved interrupting my players when they were like, "I have to." I was like, "You get to," and just
yeah.
interrupting them because we had that
It's
permission, obviously, but that's great.
but it changes their thought process too right away, just like the whole yes thing.
Yep, absolutely.
And so talking about this, it got me to remember my last point about you were saying something. Things happen like when things happen to you. My good mentor and good friend Michael Kowalski, who also has a podcast on the No Filter Network, but when that whole situation with the bananas happened, one of the first things he said, you need to look at the world in a different way. Instead of everything in the world happening to you, it's happening for you.
Absolutely.
It's happening for you. So that something else better is coming.
Yeah.
There's something better. Everything happens for you. Everything happens for a reason. Everything happens on purpose. And that's the reiteration I think we all get when we watch motivational videos, motivational movies, documentaries is there's a reason, there's a purpose for everything in life. And no matter what happens in your life, it's for you because it's that superpower, whatever you believe in, God, Allah, whatever the hell it is out there, it's happening for you because that's the energy you're giving out. So even if you're giving out bad energy, bad things are coming back, but it's happening for you because I think it's the universe is trying to teach you, hey, you're
Absolutely.
you're thinking bad, you're being bad, we're gonna give you bad. And so in order for you to learn,
Yeah.
right? So I think every circumstance is for you in order for you to learn.
Yeah. Dude, I mean, the law of attraction is so real. I'm sorry, it is so real. And I know that's like not sure if everyone believes in that, but it totally is.
Well, I think everyone needs to.
Absolutely, because it's so true. Whatever energy you're putting out there, you get it back. But like you were saying, I love that is even if something bad happens to you, quote unquote, you have to believe that it is just the universe's way of making room for something better. Because what else is there to believe that it's like your
Hmm.
life is over and you're doomed? Again,
Yeah.
that's going to make you feel not great. So choosing to say, okay, this is just it wasn't meant to be. This is because the universe has my back and it's creating space for what's meant for me. And again, I think it's if you believe in God or whatever, it doesn't really matter. It's just believing that what's coming for you is meant for you. That's it.
Hmm. Because in the end, like it's saving you, I think, and it's making you feel alive. Like if we don't have pain, we're not alive. And I think that's the same thing with like bad things happen, pain happens. It's because the universe superpowers are telling us you're alive, be grateful, be glad, learn from this and move on and use it as fuel for the fire to accomplish the most beautiful badass things ever.
Yes. 100% yes. Most definitely.
I think that's pretty damn good.
That's pretty damn good. I mean, that put a bow on it, tidied it up. Nice.
Well, not yet, because I still want to ask you one more question.
Okay.
And you can give me a long answer or a short answer.
Okay.
All this EQ, emotional intelligence, all this, motivational, inspirational to hopefully help our listeners and whoever wants to listen in on this. But also, what we've talked about, we've put it out there. We've given away the good energy that we've talked about. What is your biggest dream in life?
My biggest dream in life is
If
truly
you
my
could,
vision. Is that what you're asking?
yeah, if you can do anything in life, money is not in, like, don't worry about money. Don't worry about if you had all the resources, network. What are you doing that would be your greatest fulfillment?
For me, it's pretty simple. It's finding the love of my life, having a family, and traveling the world. That is like the ultimate dream. Pretty simple, nothing crazy juicy, but it's the truth.
Don't
Yeah.
forget crew.
And crew, of course. Family, crew.
Family, crew, travel.
That's
What
it.
about what about career wise?
Career wise. So I'm in video production, which I absolutely love, and do some photo stuff too. Eventually, I love video. I love everything about video. I love the producer side of it. I love giving interviews. That line of work is truly what I'm made for in my career. And so, part of the reason why I went to Choice is had a minor setback, got laid off from my previous company. So that was very difficult for me and led me along with some other things that were happening in my life, but that ultimately led me to have the time, which is what old Reni would say, to go to Choice and do something to empower me. um, but anyway, that job is what introduced me to video producing and finding my niche in it, and just that I absolutely adore it. And so I foresee myself being in it for a very long time. And I really love it. Love the creative aspect of it. Love the connection you make with people. Love the stories you hear. The storytelling is amazing. So
Well, maybe you'll work with me one day and do some cool smoothie videos or photos or whatever else I get into, which will most likely be serving people in healthcare and holistic health and whatnot. But maybe we can work together and kill it and just serve people and enjoy what we're both passionate about.
I think we would make a pretty solid team, honestly.
Well, I mean, I got to see some of your work though, because I mean,
Fair, fair, very fair.
I mean, I trust you, right? I mean, everything's about trust. I'm still learning about trust, but
Mhm.
I gotta see some work first.
Gotcha. No worries. We
I
can do that.
trust you as a person, but as a producer,
I hear you.
that's that's a different talk that we'll have to have.
Yes. No worries. We got it.
But no, thank you for coming on. This
Thank
was so good. I feel like we're still missing 20,000 subjects of
I know we
EQ
can
to
talk
talk
about it
about.
forever. I know it's the best. It's the greatest thing to talk about, I think. It's amazing, but I had the best time with you. I'm so proud
No,
of
thank you. I'm proud of you. Thank you for taking the time. Thank you for coaching me. Still do. Um,
you, of course.
but yeah,
Okay.
appreciate you being on the No Filter Network. And shall we give it away? Do you wanna do you wanna give it away?
Oh my
What?
God. Get away.
What here? How about this? Let's do a different give it away. Think of think of a way of being that you want to give away. Because like I don't think we ever did that. It was just who wants to give it away and it's three, two, one, give it away. But
Right?
let's give away an intention.
Ooh, I like that. Okay. Let's give it a okay.
Because no one understands what that ever meant. And I just listened to this one song, Give It Away. It's kind of a gospel song, but I'll send it to you.
Okay.
It's called Give It Away. It's by a group back, I don't know, maybe in the 90s, but I'll send it to you once I find it. But you know, I just never understood the give it away until somebody explained it, but it's just so blah. Like,
Gotcha.
why doesn't someone pick an intention like we're gonna do now? You're gonna pick it, and we're gonna send it out there.
Okay. What's coming to mind? So much coming to mind, but I think moving into our night, into the weekend tomorrow, I want to give away authenticity. I
I
like that.
like it.
I like that. Me too. Thanks.
All
Thought of it
right,
myself.
that's all. Just be authentic, people. Be you.
That's
Be
it.
authentic. Be
That's
real.
it. That's all she wrote.
All right. Well, thank you, Rennie.
Thank you.
And three, two, one. See you, everybody. Be authentic.